Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Yes, I am back from vacation, and so today we're going to cover over a few notable things that happened with the market over the last couple of weeks. There was a really big ban list over in the OCG, and we had some interesting meta developments as well here with some national events happening in Europe. So of course, I still want to make sure that you guys are as up to date as possible. But yeah, it's great to finally be back, and let's just jump right into it. So to start things off, we got to take a look at Spellbook of Judgement. I was on vacation when the OCG list came out, and I swear I thought that it was just like a fan-made one. I didn't think that it was actually real, but the OCG did the crazy thing. They decided to bring Spellbook of Judgement back to 1. This is crazy to me. I'm sure that it is also for a lot of you that played in the Dragon Ruler Spellbook format. Spellbook of Judgement is just this insane card that lets you search for multiple Spellbook cards and then also special summon a spellcaster out of your deck. A lot of the time that monster is going to be Yugioh, which locks your opponent out of special summoning. Now in the context of today's game, I don't know if this card is still broken. Obviously the searching is really crazy, but maybe the power level of the cards that you're searching for isn't as crazy, and Yugioh is a lot like the Wind Barrier statue, which I don't think is an overly problematic card in today's game either. Anyways, this card was obviously banned quite a few years ago, so it just has 2 secret rare printings available. The original is from Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, the original set, which is about $10 each, and then we have the reprint from the Megatons as well, which is about $8. Obviously this price is entirely speculative. Before, this card was only a couple of bucks, but it spiked on the news of the OCG ban list, as a lot of people are probably thinking that the same thing could happen here in the TCG. That's a big question mark though, and it's really just a matter of time and like when Konami feels like doing it. If they do decide to bring it off, right, obviously we can expect this card to jump up in price even higher, but with every ban list where it doesn't peel off, we kind of expect the price to probably stay steady, maybe decline a little bit. I think that we should also expect the card to be reprinted if it does come off the list, so for those of you that want to play spellbooks, maybe accessibility isn't too much of a concern. I think that the best plan of action here is to keep your copies of this card ready to offload just in case it does come off the list, and then sell them right when the list drops so that you get maximum value for it. Next up, we have a pretty funny card. It is Nico Main King. This is an extremely old card that was originally from Magician's Force. It is a level 1 monster with 0 attack points, 0 defense points, and a pretty unique effect. Now, during your opponent's turn, if this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, your opponent's turn just ends. So in GOAT format, this is a card that sees play to counter empty jar decks, but I don't think this card has seen meta play in a very long time. However, it's now being talked about as a side deck card to use in the Dark World and Tier Elements matchups. With the new Dark World support coming, they have multiple cards that can force you to pitch cards from your hand, so if they get you to ditch this card, their turn kind of ends unexpectedly. And then in Tier Elements, with the Ishizu cards, right, they can force you to mill this card to the graveyard, and their turn ends as well. In either case, you are forcing your opponent to end on a suboptimal and underdeveloped board, but of course there is a little bit of a luck element to it as well. As for price, this card doesn't have any holo printings yet. It just has 3 common versions from Magician's Force, Dark Revelations 1, and Legendary Collection Joey's World. Any of these copies in near mint form is going to run you anywhere from like $5 to $8, which is a lot for a common card, but do keep in mind that the card hasn't been reprinted since back in 2013. This is definitely the type of card that you guys will want to dig up out of the bulk bins at your locals or at home and have them ready to offload when people come looking for them within the next couple of months. Now, speaking of Dark Worlds, next we'll take a look at Silvia Warlord of Dark World. Now, Dark Worlds just happen to be my favorite archetype in the entire game. They're the first deck that I played for a very long time when I first got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I came in playing on a budget. They were really cheap. I remember I thought it was crazy that I was spending $5 a piece on common drag down into the graves, and here we are. Anyways, obviously guys, we have new Dark World support coming to the OCG, and at the moment, we don't know if it's going to come to the TCG in a side set or as a structure deck, but either way, we will get it eventually. The support does look really cool. A lot of people are playing around with it, testing it. It can do some pretty nutty things. Silvia is actually now one of the important cards of the deck. It's a free special summon if it's discarded by a card effect, and you can bounce it back to your hand. With Grapha or the new Rainbow, it takes the place of Beige because it has another effect, right? So if it's discarded by your opponent's card effect, they take 2 cards from their hand and place them to the bottom of the deck, which is kind of nuts. It's not like even a discard, right? So they can't access the card from the graveyard. Silva has a few different holo printings, and those are the versions that have jumped up in price. The ultimate rares are crazy expensive. The unlimiteds, they're pretty reasonable at like $40 or so, but the first eds are easily over 100 to 120. The ultra rares from Dark Revelations 4, I believe, those are like $60 each, and then even the secret rares from Legendary Collection Joey's World, those are gonna run you about $14 to $15 each. The card does have a couple of different common printings, and if we get a structure deck, Silva will probably be included in there as well, so we don't need to worry too much about the card's accessibility. But if you want to bling out your Dark World deck, this is one of the cards that they run 1 to 2 copies of that you'll have to pay up for. Next up, this is a really cool looking card in my opinion. It is Ignist Prominence, the Blasting Draco Slayer. So back in the Pendulum days, this card was a beast, a level 8 synchro monster that spun a card back into the deck and also summoned a monster to your field from the deck as well. It hasn't really seen play at all recently, but the OCG just revealed that in Darkwing Blast we are getting some really good Pendulum support. I think there's like a Dino-Mist card, a Magispector card, but they did the thing where they combine multiple archetypes onto the one card, and all of them are actually Draco Slayers, which means that they can be summoned out of the deck with Ignist Prominence. I don't know which Pendulum strategy is going to be good, if any of them. Obviously, like, people are hyped about it and they're testing it out, but it's hard to say because Pendulums are naturally countered by things like Anti-Spell Fragrance, Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment. Now this card is actually quite easy to find in terms of just like accessing it. It has a rare printing from King's Court and a gold rare reprint as well, so if you just want like any version of the card, that should be pretty doable. However, if you want the highest rarity, which is the ultimate rare, you're gonna have to pay up for it. The ultimate rare first editions are about $50 a piece, and then we have the ultimate rare unlimiteds also going at around $35. Obviously, that is a lot to pay for right now, especially since we aren't quite sure yet, right? Like just how good this card is going to be, or if any deck that uses this card is really going to be that good. I personally would hold off on buying this card for now. Wait until people relist their copies back onto the market over the next couple of weeks. And if you really want this card, like wait for a couple of months before Darkwing Blast officially comes out here in the TCG. Hopefully the card will be a bit closer to its like bottom out price before the hype for it starts building back up again. Okay, so a weird one to touch on quickly here. It is a Legendary Ocean. I literally never thought that I'd be talking about this card on Market Watch, but here we are. So this is a really old card that kind of functions as Yuumi, right? Its name is always treated as Yuumi. We haven't received any other Yuumi retrains, so this is like the most up-to-date one that we have. It does give a 200 attack point boost to like water monsters, and it also reduces the level of water monsters on the hand and field, I believe, of both players by 1. So in Duels from the Deep, the newest Legendary Duelist set, we got support for the Mako Tsunami type cards, like Karyushin, the Jellyfish, that kind of stuff. Now, all of those cards actually require you to have Yuumi on the field in order to get all of their effects. So players go with a Legendary Ocean since it's the best field spell for them to play. Obviously, I don't think the deck is all that viable, but it's a new strategy, it's not that bad, and it's also fairly cheap, right? So there's probably a good chunk of players, especially at your local level, that are going to want to put the deck together just for fun. Now, a Legendary Ocean doesn't have any holo printings. What it does have is a common Hobby League printing. Nothing different about it, just the set coding that is different. I think you got like a stack of them sealed and they were used for older events in the past. Kind of cool, nothing that really stands out about them. But of course, Yu-Gi-Oh players want the highest possible rarity of this card, and the Hobby League common version is the hardest copy of a Legendary Ocean to find. So for whatever reason, people have decided to buy out this version of this card to the $8 mark. Obviously, I don't think this is a good buy. If I can get away with playing like a common version that looks exactly the same, then I'll just do that. Especially when I can get those common versions for like 25 cents, 50 cents. Dig them out of your common bin at your locals. If you guys happen to know that you have copies of this card lying around, dig them out of your bulk. Make sure you check your copies carefully, because I know that when all of them are common, it's really difficult to just identify which ones are going to be the Hobby League versions. But yeah, check your copies in your bulk, and if you happen to have a few of them, offload them as soon as you can, and congratulations. Next up is one where the hype has kind of died down a bit already. It's number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. So this is a generic rank 7 monster that has sort of a cool effect where you can banish your opponent's cards face down. It does seem kind of situational, but maybe it'll come up somewhere. Anyways, so in Darkwing Blast, we just got revealed the Kshatri Law archetype. It is a level 7 base deck that seems kind of okay. I think they have a couple of good monsters. but I think the monsters seem better on their own rather than like with the theme they're meant to be played with, if that makes sense. Kind of like how Pankratops is a good card, but Dino Wrestlers aren't a good deck. Anyways, we got a reprint of number 89 in Brothers of Legend, and the card is extremely cheap, right? It was all the way down at under $1. A lot of players were talking about this card as being a great penny stock, and so when the level 7 base strategy was revealed, people were trying to hype this card up, saying that it would be worth money already. As a result, we did see the card go up to like $3 each, but the card is already back down to being $1 or $2, not really worth that much. I think that people just realized the archetype wasn't that good, and even if it were, number 89 doesn't seem that great either. Now, maybe that will change. Maybe the Kshatriya Law archetype will get more support in the next couple of sets, and that's going to make it really good, which is totally possible. But for the way that the deck looks right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. However, that probably isn't going to stop people from hoarding copies of number 89. After all, this card was a prize card, and aside from that, it just has the one secret rare printing. So if the card ever does see play, it could be really expensive, like the Pendulum Chaos Emperor Dragon. So who knows? I think that if you go to your locals, right, and you see this card in someone's binder, and you can pick it up for like 50 cents or $1, that's fine. I wouldn't go out of your way to pick up like so many copies of this card, but if you're grabbing it to round off like a small trade or something, then maybe it's not a horrible card to hold on to while it's still at this low price point. Anything more than $1 a piece though, I'm definitely staying away from this card for now. Alright, the last card we have to take a look at for today is Marincess Great Bubble Reef. So I believe that it was at the Italian Nationals. Marincess actually took a spot in the top 16, which probably caught a lot of people off guard. We got some Marincess support in Duels from the Deep, but I don't think anyone really paid too much attention to it and just kind of assumed it was meh because it wasn't like broken, right? However, apparently the deck can actually do some cool things. I know they can make totally awesome. They have access to a really good boss monster that negates as well as summons a Marincess out of your back row. Anyways, because of this surprise showing from the deck, people are actually looking at playing Marincess now, which has caused a few different cards to bump up in price. The one I'm looking at here is Great Bubble Reef. She is a Link 4 monster that has a couple of useful effects. Now, in each standby phase, you can banish a water monster from your field or graveyard to draw a card, and then you can also send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon a banished Marincess monster. Seems pretty cool. I don't know how often you go into this card. I think they prefer to end on Aqua Argonaut instead, since that's the negate, but maybe there are situations where this card is better, or you can bring out both. Now, this card only has the one super rare printing from back in Eternity Code, so not that long ago, but it's been a couple of years now at this point. This card was obviously like bulk before at like 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever, but it is now a $3 to $4 card because the archetype is starting to see some attention, which is really cool, and the card actually wasn't reprinted in the Megatins from its year. If you guys were chasing after Access Code Talker, you probably have a few copies of this card lying around somewhere, so take a bit of time to dig them out and offload them while Marincess are seeing the hype right now. Okay guys, that is it for today's episode. It does feel great to be home. I didn't get to do as much Yu-Gi-Oh! In California as I would have liked since I have some family down there. I got to do some other things. I really just went to check out like Frankensons. That was really cool. But it's great that things are finally like opening back up again, right? And hopefully I'll be able to travel to the States pretty easily in the future so we can get to some more events. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you let me know by slamming that thumbs up button for me. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today and what other cards are trending on the market so I can cover them in future episodes as well. Also, if you haven't already, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Chombox and myself here on the channel. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.